What's up, everybody? Welcome to Smokestack Joe's. On today's show, I'm going to be cooking a full brisket on the pit barrel cooker. And I'm going to be doing what all the cool kids have been doing, the new fad with brisket, and that is cooking it with beef tallow. I picked up this Wagyu beef tallow. You can make your own tallow, which would work good, but I like using the Wagyu, obvious reasons. You can get this on Amazon, 2 pounds, a little over 2 pounds of this. I think it was $30. Shipped right to your door. Big old tub of tallow. This is great to have around the kitchen for cooking, pan fry stuff with this. You can use it in place of butter. It's awesome. So I'm going to take some of this and I'm actually going to be injecting it into the brisket, and then we're going to cook it on the pit barrel cooker. Pit barrel cooker is a great way to do briskets because it's that direct heat style of cooking, so it's a little faster than a traditional smoker. It's got a little bit of different flavor because all the juices are dripping down into that coal bed, steaming back up, making a great environment for that brisket. I'm going to be using some hickory wood in there. That's a perfect option for brisket. Let's get this pit barrel lit up, then come back, trim the brisket, inject it, put the rub on it, throw it on the pit barrel. All right. All right, here's our brisket. This is a USDA Choice full packer brisket. So we're gonna see what this Wagyu tallow injection will actually do to this thing. Let's cut this open and start getting it trimmed. Couple gouges in here we gotta clean up. All this fat, this big chunk of fat's gonna come out. Some of the silver skin. As you can see, you can kind of almost just pull this out by hand. This has got some nice gouges here. See what we can do about that. But let's start with this fat right here. Kind of just trim this out. You're gonna want to save this. You can put this through your meat grinder and then turn this into some delicious beef tallow. So don't be throwing this away. We'll come in and take a little bit more of this off. This is not a well cut brisket. You can see all these gouges I have here. Not a fan of that. I like to get as much of this silver skin off as I can. Nice sharp knife will do wonders when trimming big pieces of meat like this. This is a Victorinox semi-flexible boning knife. Highly suggest one of these. Not expensive, super high quality. All right, doesn't need to be perfect. We'll go back after I do the main trim and shape this thing up the way I want it to, so this whole piece is gonna have to come off. Since this is going to be on direct heat, I want to leave a good amount of this fat. I'm going to put it fat side down towards those coals. So I want some of this fat there to protect the meat. This is a little bit different than a normal trim you'd see on a brisket because I'm going to leave a good amount of fat on this thing if I can. This flat side already looks like it has a good amount of fat. It's kind of what we want for fat. If you're going to trim fat off from here, you want to take it off this point section, if anything, because this is the fatty end of the brisket. This is lean. You want to keep a good amount of fat on this lean side over here. You can trim more fat off this point just because it's got more intermuscular fat. What I'm going to do is kind of shape this thing a little bit. See how thin this is? This is just going to get burnt. I like to round this out. I do a little something like that. All right, it's looking pretty good, I think. Liking this. We'll round this off a little bit. Flip it over. Looks good over here. Got a lot of fat over here. You can take this out if you want. I'm gonna leave it in there. This looks pretty good to me. A lot of times people are trimming briskets for aerodynamics. In this case, it's not too big a deal because we're just doing a direct heat cook. And look at all these trimmings you have. This will make great tallow. Looks pretty good. Now we're gonna inject this with some Wagyu beef tallow. Let's get to it. Getting the tallow in here is kind of a pain in the ass, but you don't want to melt it down into a liquid because it doesn't like to stay in the meat when it's liquefied. So keeping it a solid is the best way to do it, but getting it into this container, that's where the issue is. I'm gonna fill up a little Ziploc bag, cut off the corner of the bag and squeeze it in there. So let's inject some of this. You gotta work it out as you put it in. I'm gonna inject this every inch or so. As you can see, when it's solid, that tallow really stays in there. All right, so this is how I'm doing this. Just squeezing it in there with this bag. This seems to be the best way to do it. I injected the whole thing. You can rub this with the tallow that's on the outside, and it's gonna give you a great binder for your seasoning to stick on. Seasoning, I go super simple. We're doing salt, pepper, garlic powder. Start with some salt. Big piece of meat. Don't worry about going too heavy. Wanna get the sides. Now our black pepper, I like to go very heavy on the pepper. Gives you that nice bark, and when this pepper gets smoked, phenomenal flavor. It's not like fresh pepper at all, so don't worry about going heavy on this black pepper. A lot of brisket guys like to stop here, salt and pepper. I'm a big fan of the garlic powder. Just adds that extra oomph to it. It's a great added flavor. Let's flip this over. Salt, pepper, and the garlic powder. I'm telling you, you're gonna wanna use this stuff. And there we have it, a beautiful brisket. We just gotta get this out on the pit barrel. All right, see you out at the pit barrel. All right, let's get this brisket on the pit barrel cooker. Like I said before, we're putting this right down on the grate. And we're going fat side down. We got the brisket on the pit barrel cooker. That thing looks good. I've got that thing fat side down, like I said before. It's got that direct heat, so that fat's gonna protect the meat. I find that hanging a brisket on the pit barrel is kind of challenging because it hangs so low to the bottom. That's why I like throwing it up on the rack. If it fits, you might have to trim it to fit. Try and find yourself a smaller brisket that'll fit inside there. So I'm gonna have that thing on 3 hours. Could be longer, could be shorter. That's the thing with the pit barrel. Sometimes these things fly through cooks super fast. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I'm gonna throw a temperature probe in there, start checking it around 160, 170 degrees. I'm going for a look. I want that nice bark. Then I'm gonna pull it off, wrap it in butcher paper with more of that Wagyu tallow on that paper, throw it back on till it's finished at that 200, 205 mark, till probe tender. I'll see you when we check that brisket, pull it off and wrap it. All right, so we are at the 4.5 hour mark right now on this brisket. Our temperature is at about 180 degrees and it looks about ready to wrap. More so than the temperature of it, you really want a nice bark to start to set on this thing before you go ahead and wrap it. The bark looks pretty good, so we're gonna go ahead, pull it off and wrap it. Let's do this. All right, so I'm sure you guys have heard of the foil boat method. I'm doing a little bit of a twist on that. I'm gonna wrap this up in butcher paper, then I'm gonna put a little foil boat around the butcher paper. I like the combination of fully wrapping with butcher paper, but also using a foil boat method. I'm gonna show you how to do that next. Heavy duty tin foil, lay that out. Now, our butcher paper, need a good amount of this. So with a brisket, you're gonna wanna cut 2 sections. Make sure you have enough here. All right, we got our paper set up. Now, I'm gonna coat some Wagyu beef tallow on this. Then we're gonna pull our brisket off the pit, put it on this paper, wrap it up, and do the foil boat. Let's get to it. All right, let's get some of that tallow down. Be generous. Stuff is like magic. All right, so when we started the brisket, I went fat side down. I'm gonna do that again. Get this beautiful looking brisket down. This thing already smells phenomenal. And the bark we got going, very nice and crispy already. It's not a crazy bark on top, but it'll get a little bit more when we wrap it. Let's go ahead and do this. Before I fold these edges in, I wanna fold this whole brisket over. so we can cover this on this tallow side here. Just like that. You can fold your edges. We are now fat side up. Final flip. That gets us fat side down. Now we got this little piece here. What I like to do is just fold that off here. Lift this up. Just tuck that underneath there. Perfect. So there we have it. We're fat side down, fully wrapped up. Now, just do this little foil boat method. The thing I like most about this foil boat method is right here. You can get these edges on this flat, wrapped and covered so they don't overcook, while leaving the point exposed to get a little bit more heat. Let's get this on the smoker. I want this thing to be about 200 degrees. I'm gonna take my thermometer and start checking it for tenderness. This could be ready anywhere between 198, 205. We're just looking for that tenderness. Let's get this back on the pit barrel. All right, I just got the brisket off the pit barrel. It's been about 2 hours since I wrapped it and put it in this foil boat for a total of 6.5 hours on a brisket. That's the great thing about this pit barrel cooker. You can get a nice, fast cook without sacrificing anything, and everything will come out absolutely delicious. Last time I did a brisket with this Wagyu injection, the same thing happened where it cooked pretty quickly, so I don't know if that has something to do with it or not. Or it was also in this foil boat style wrap. I don't know if this extra layer of insulation makes it cook quicker, but either way, it comes out phenomenal. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap this up in a towel, let it rest for a couple hours, and then we're gonna slice into it and see how this brisket came out. Let's get this thing wrapped. Got myself a nice towel here. Wrap this up nice and tight, and there we have it. I'm gonna let this sit for hopefully 2 hours. I might come back in an hour and a half. The smell coming off this thing is phenomenal. This is gonna be a hell of a brisket. So I'll see you when it's time to cut into this. All right, guys, this has rested for 2 hours. It was a long 2 hours. I was ready to slice into this thing after about a half an hour. And then the hour mark rolled around. I was like, oh, that's good enough. Let's just cut into it. No, stop myself. This needed a full 2 hours rest. It could probably go longer, especially if you threw it in a cooler or something like that. No cooler, just wrapped in a towel like this. 2 hours later, probed it. We're at about 160 plus. That just goes to show you how much heat retention this has, and it's been able to absorb a lot of that fluid. I can't wait any longer. I'm gonna unwrap this, slice into it. Let's see how it is. Let's get this thing unwrapped. Still super hot. Another great thing about this foil boat, the amount of fluid that is trapped in here is amazing. Look at this thing. Yeah, look at that. Is this gonna be juicy or is it gonna be juicy? So the good thing about this foil is it's gonna hold all that juice. We're gonna save that for later. Amazing. All right, this is what you get with the tallow. You guys could smell this. Look at that. You see, even though it was wrapped, this bark got even better. Want to save that? Yeah. This is what that tallow does, guys. All right, it's about time to slice into this. Let's slice into this beauty and see what we got. Oh yeah, look at that. Got a beautiful smoke ring on here. This is a hell of a brisket. I'll tell you what, that's what we're looking for. So, first off, let's slice into this flat here. Look at that, juicy. Yeah, it's juicy. This is a choice brisket, guys. Let's get a slice. It's a little thick. All right, there's your bend test, if anyone's curious. Looks pretty good to me. Let's get into this point meat. Oh yeah. Oh my, oh my. This is good. Look at that. Just wonderful. Beautiful smoke ring. Super tender. Just falls apart. Great. Juicy. I gotta give this a try. I'm taking this right here. Oh my God. It's always hard to say it is the best brisket, but this may be the best brisket I have cooked. The flavor going on here, let me give this flat a try. This is good. It's not good. It is fantastic. I gotta have some more. This is so good. All right, guys, this brisket came out phenomenal. For a 6.5 hour brisket, when there's guys out there who are doing 12, 14-hour brisket cooks to get this. That Wagyu tallow injection just made this thing super moist. It's absolutely phenomenal. Also, cooking this thing on the pit barrel is great. The pit barrel cooker is so awesome. You can get results like this in such a short amount of time. It's ridiculous. Look at the smoke ring you get on the pit barrel cooker. I've never used anything that produces such a thick smoke ring. Be sure to give this a try. If you have a pit barrel, if you don't have a pit barrel cooker, get one. I highly suggest it. They're awesome. Not affiliated or anything like that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to eat some of this brisket. I got some delicious baked beans I made. Maybe you'll see that recipe in the future. So please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it if you watched. Thank you very much. Follow me on Instagram. I'm always posting good stuff on there. Till next time, make sure you get out there and cook some good food.